She barged into my house during a neighborhood fire drill, screaming like she owned the block. "This baby isn't safe with you," she yelled, snatching my newborn right from my arms. I froze for a second, not because I was scared, but because I couldn't believe what just happened. Outside, the sirens from the drill still blared. People were gathered around, pretending to be helpful, but not her. Karen had this twisted smirk on her face like she'd finally caught me doing something wrong. "You're not even supposed to be here," she shouted. "This property's not zoned for whatever you are." She held my baby close like she was some kind of hero. "The HOA says this isn't up to code," she added, waving some paper around like it was a badge. It wasn't. I'd seen her print fake notices before. Neighbors talked. I took a step toward her, calm but firm. "Give me my son." "No," she snapped. "I'm placing him in temporary HOA custody for his safety. You people don't follow the rules." You people. There it was, the line, the venom. The reason she never looked me in the eye. By now, a few neighbors were recording. Some looked confused. One guy whispered, "Is she serious?" I stayed quiet for a beat. Then I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You have no idea who you're messing with." She laughed, actually laughed, thinking I was bluffing. "Oh yeah? And who are you? Some failed rent-a-cop?" I didn't respond. I just reached into my back pocket slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a laminated ID card. Her eyes flickered for a second, just long enough. "You kidnapped the child of a U.S. Navy SEAL," I said. Her smirk vanished. And just like that, the game changed. Karen's grip on my baby tightened. For a moment, it was like she didn't believe me, or worse, like she did, and was trying to figure out how to spin it in her favor. "Navy SEAL?" she scoffed. "Nice story. Everyone's a hero when they get caught breaking rules." I didn't flinch. I could see the neighbor's phone still up recording. Every second of this was being documented. That was good. I wanted witnesses. "I suggest you hand him back before this gets ugly," I said, voice low but steady. She raised her chin. "Nope. Not until the real authorities get here. I already called them." I knew what that meant. Her people. The so-called HOA enforcement she liked to brag about. Off-duty buddies or private security dressed up like cops. She had pulled this stunt before with others, issued fines that didn't exist, tried to tow a veteran's truck for parking violations in front of his own house. I could hear the fake sirens now. Not city squad cars. These were clearly from an old Crown Vic with flashing lights slapped on top. Two guys in tactical-looking gear stepped out, puffed up like mall cops playing soldier. Karen pointed at me like she just caught a fugitive. "That's him. Detain him. He's trespassing and resisting HOA regulation, and he's got a baby." The taller one walked toward me, hand on a fake badge. "Sir, we need you to stand down and surrender the child." I didn't move. Instead, I slowly turned to the crowd. "Does anyone here think these guys are real cops?" A woman from 2 doors down raised her hand. "They gave me a citation last week for planting tomatoes." A laugh broke out from the crowd. Even the guy recording behind Karen muttered, "This is insane." The shorter one got closer, hand twitching near his belt. "Sir, last warning." Gave him one look and said, "I served 2 tours in Fallujah. You touch my son, I promise you, that'll be the last mistake you make today." His hand froze. He looked at Karen, unsure. "Don't just stand there," she snapped. "Do your job." But they didn't move. And that's when the sound of real sirens rolled in, the kind that don't glitch, the kind that make everyone's heart skip. Karen turned, confused. "Wait, who called them?" I didn't even look away. I did, 10 minutes ago. She blinked. "See?" I said. "I figured you'd pull this little power trip again. That's why I installed 4 cameras last week. Audio too." Karen's face dropped. But I wasn't done. "And while you were busy kidnapping my son impersonating law enforcement and screaming in front of 30 witnesses. Every second was live-streamed. Then came the line that made the crowd gasp. You didn't just mess with a Navy SEAL, Karen. You messed with federal law. The real cops rolled up fast. 2 squad cars, lights blazing, tires screeching. You could see the difference right away. No cosplay, no hesitation, just authority. One officer, tall and clean-cut, stepped out and looked directly at me. Sir, you the one who made the call? I nodded and pointed calmly. She has my newborn. She broke into my home during a fire drill, claimed HOA custody. Those 2 behind her impersonated officers and tried to detain me. Karen spun around, like she'd been blindsided. Wait. Officer, this man is unstable. He threatened me and the baby. He's a danger. I was protecting the child. But the officer cut her off. Ma'am, step away from the baby. Her voice jumped an octave. You don't understand. He's not even supposed to live here. This whole lot isn't zoned for, whatever his kind is. There it was, again. The truth she kept trying to hide behind regulations and fake notices. She thought she was better. Thought her HOA badge made her judge, jury, and sheriff. The officer looked at me, then back at her. You said he doesn't live here? She crossed her arms, triumphant. That's right, I have HOA records. He's a squatter. I didn't say anything. Just reached into my pocket and handed the officer a folded document. Deed property line certification. Title in my name. Clear as daylight. The officer reviewed it, nodded, then turned to Karen with a tight, controlled expression. Ma'am, he owns this property, fully registered. There is no HOA authority to enter his home, let alone take his child. Karen's mouth dropped open. No, that can't be. That can't be. I have rules. I printed them myself. From the side, the officer's partner came up holding one of Karen's official citations. Sir, he said to his partner, this isn't even a legal document, just a Word doc with a fake logo. Karen lunged toward the baby. One last desperate move, but the cop stepped in instantly. Hands where we can see them. The taller cop pulled out cuffs. Ma'am, you are under arrest for breaking and entering, child endangerment, kidnapping, and impersonating a government official. She screamed, What? I am the authority here. You're all making a mistake. But it was too late. The crowd was filming. The neighbors were whispering. Her fake cops had already backed away, trying not to be noticed. One actually started crying. As Karen was being led to the squad car, she locked eyes with me. You think this is over? She hissed, You don't belong here. I held my baby close and finally let my voice rise, not loud, just enough for everyone to hear. I fought for this land, I bled for it. You're the one who doesn't belong. In a place where freedom still means something. And from behind someone in the crowd, a voice muttered, Damn right. Karen screamed all the way to the police car, kicking and yelling like a child caught lying. You're ruining everything. I built this neighborhood. I run this place. She shrieked as the officers calmly closed the door behind her. The silence that followed was sharp. The fake enforcement officers she brought along were now huddled near the sidewalk, trying to look invisible. One of them, the shorter one, kept glancing at his car like he was debating whether to make a run for it. The officer turned to them. Names now. They hesitated. I stepped forward. Check the back of their belts. Those badges are plastic. One of them still has the Halloween tag. A neighbor burst out laughing. The taller one groaned and muttered, I told her this was a bad idea. Another officer cuffed them both without another word. No yelling, no struggle, just silence and shame. They'd played cops for HOA clout, and now they were going to jail for impersonating federal officers. I could feel my baby's breathing settle down in my arms. Finally. Safe. A few neighbors came over cautiously. One of them, a woman in her 60s, placed her hand on my shoulder. We didn't know, sweetheart. She told us you were some squatter who refused to follow fire codes. I nodded slowly. She told you what she needed to keep control. That's how people like her operate. A younger guy stepped forward. He was the one filming everything. I got the whole thing, every second. I already uploaded it. Looked at him. Uploaded where? He smiled. Everywhere. Within minutes, phones were buzzing. People started gathering in small groups, rewatching what had just happened. The story was already spreading. HOA, Karen kidnaps baby, gets exposed by Navy SEAL. It was going viral, fast. And then, something unexpected happened. A city official showed up. Not a cop. Someone from zoning. He pulled me aside. We've received multiple complaints about this area from your HOA board president. Turns out it was just her. Dozens of filings, all fake. She tried to rezone your property as a vacant lot 3 weeks ago. I narrowed my eyes. Why? She was trying to buy it from under you, he said quietly. Fake violations, paper trails, pressure. She did it to 2 other families before they moved out. It clicked. That's why she wanted me out. That's why she had pushed so hard from day one. She wasn't just on a power trip. She had a plan. Not anymore, I said. He gave me a nod. We're voiding every filing she made, permanently. I looked back at the house. My house. My land. And then I looked at my son, still asleep in my arms. She almost got away. With it, I whispered. But she didn't. Because I wasn't just some quiet neighbor. I was the wrong guy to pick a fight with. The next morning I woke up to the sound of reporters outside my front yard. Not the usual neighborhood whispers. Actual cameras, microphones, news vans lining the street like I'd landed a plane on a highway. I stepped outside holding my son, and the questions flew at me. Sir, how long had Karen been targeting your family? Did you really say you were a Navy SEAL after she took the baby? Is it true she faked over 40 HOA violations in the last year? I didn't say much, just looked into the camera and said, she tried to take my child, but she couldn't. Take what I stand for. That line hit harder than I expected. By noon, it was on every platform, every news site. Comment sections flooded with words like hero, patriot, American dad. But the truth? I wasn't trying to be anything. I was just protecting what was mine. By late afternoon, the HOA board officially dissolved. Turns out Karen was the entire board, self-appointed, never elected. She'd created a shell group to issue threats, fines, even lien notices to people who didn't mow their lawn to her liking. The city launched an investigation. Multiple neighbors filed claims. And just like that, everything she built on lies crumbled. But it didn't stop there. A lawyer knocked on my door the next day. Not for me, for the neighborhood. He'd been watching the footage online, and now a class action lawsuit was forming. Harassment, property fraud, child endangerment. She messed with the wrong community, he said, and they finally had someone brave enough to stand still when everyone else ran. That night I was sitting on the porch with my son when a car pulled up slowly across the street. Windows tinted. Quiet. A man in a suit stepped out, tall, built like someone who still did morning runs in combat boots. He walked over with purpose. You're the guy, he said, the one who stopped her. I stood a little cautious. Depends on who's asking. He reached into his jacket, handed me a card. Department of Justice. She crossed into federal territory the moment she impersonated law enforcement and falsified municipal documents, he said. We've been watching her for a while. You just gave us what we needed. I stared at the card, then back at him. So what happens now? She'll face charges beyond what your local station can handle. Fraud, conspiracy, maybe even RICO depending on how deep this goes. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Before walking off, he said something that stuck with me. You didn't just protect your family. You exposed a system no one else had the guts to fight. And suddenly, everything was quiet. Again. No sirens, no shouting, no fake notices taped to my door. Just me, my baby, and a front porch that finally felt like home. A week later, the neighborhood looked completely different. Gone were the tacky HOA warning signs Karen used to plaster on people's doors. Gone were the fake patrols, the random citations, the fear people felt just watering their lawns too early. Kids were riding bikes again. Someone even started barbecuing in their front yard, something Karen used to fine people $200 for. But the biggest shift wasn't outside. It was how people looked at me. Not like the outsider anymore. Not like the quiet guy on the corner. Now they waved, brought over food. One older couple knocked on my door with a cherry pie and just said, "Thank you for standing up when we were too scared to." I didn't need recognition, but I'll admit, hearing that felt good. Like the weight Karen held over this street had finally lifted. Then the calls started coming, in veterans groups, advocacy networks. Even a podcast with 1 million followers wanted to interview me. Not because I was a hero, they said, but because I stood my ground. I kept turning them down until one call came from someone unexpected. A Navy buddy. "Haven't heard your voice in years," he said, laughing. But I knew it had to be. You when I saw the way you stood, feet apart, shoulders steady. Textbook seal. We talked for hours. About service, about silence, about how men like us usually avoid attention, but sometimes someone pushes too far. Then he said something that hit me square in the chest. Karen didn't just pick the wrong man. She picked the wrong mission. That stuck with me, because that's exactly what it felt like. Like she launched a whole operation to take control of something that was never hers, and I just happened to be the firewall she didn't see coming. Later that night, I stood at the edge of my driveway holding my boy, watching the stars. Quiet. Safe. Ours. And, in that silence, I finally said it out loud. She tried to take everything, but she gave me something bigger instead. A reason to never stay silent again. A month passed. Karen was still sitting in county lockup, denied bail after more charges, piled up wire fraud, impersonating a federal officer, child endangerment conspiracy. Her trial was set for national headlines, and I'd been subpoenaed as a key witness. But even with all that chaos behind me, life felt peaceful. The house was quiet again. My son was healthy. The neighborhood was alive. And for the first time since moving in, I felt like I truly belonged. One morning, I got a knock at the door. It was the city mayor. He shook my hand and said, "We've been following your story. What you did, standing up against corruption, protecting your child, uniting a broken neighborhood, it mattered. It reminded people what this country is supposed to stand for." I didn't say much, just nodded and looked down at my son tugging at my leg. Then the mayor handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a certificate and a gold-embossed plaque, in recognition of extraordinary courage, civic integrity, and service to the community. I looked at it for a long time, then finally asked, "Why me?" He smiled. "Because when others froze, you moved. When others were afraid, you acted. And when someone tried to steal your voice, you used it to protect everyone else's." That night, as I rocked my baby to sleep, I thought about everything Karen tried to do. Tear down a man, a home, a life. But all she really did was light, a fire that brought people together. She thought she could bully, lie, and fake her way into control. She thought a uniform and a clipboard made her untouchable. She thought I was just another silent neighbor. But I was never silent. I was trained. I was calm. I was watching. And when the time came, I didn't need to fight dirty, because truth was always on my side. And in this country, when truth finally speaks, loud, clear, and proud, not even a Karen can shut it down.